Hi everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. I'm excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And today we're here with Sara Abrams. She's VP Data Analytics and Quality Assurance at the Rochester RHIO. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, so excited to talk about, exchange of information. We're at the Civitas Direct Trust Conference. But tell us a little bit about yourself and the Rochester RHIO.
Sure. Rochester RHIO is a regional health information exchange. We are in the Finger Lakes region of New York State, and we're one of the 6 HIEs that make up the Statewide Health Information Network of New York, or the SHINE. And I've been with Rochester RHIO for 11 years. I started as a technical project manager, and I've had sort of progressive technical experience. I've gone from managing small interfacing projects to large, community-facing implementations. And my background is actually in public health. And so for me, the data analytics and having good quality data is where it gets really exciting. And so in my new role, I'm focusing more on how we can use our data for good, interoperability for health equity.
Yeah, we all want that.
Right.
So talk about your decision to move your direct secure messaging to Secure Exchange Solutions and to utilize their HISP.
Sure, absolutely. So as one of the entities in the SHINE, direct messaging is a core service for us. And so it's really critical that we have a stable vendor and that it's easy to implement, easy to maintain. And for us, moving to Secure Exchange Solutions, or SES, reduced our administrative burden in maintaining a HISP. It made it a lot easier for us to wrap deploying that service into our operational procedures. And it also helped us hook in direct messaging where appropriate to our interoperability solution to help the flow of information.
This kind of sounds like CIOs that want to get out of the data center business.
Exactly.
You want to get out of the infrastructure and get to the quality that you care about.
Exactly. And the other thing is that security and privacy are really critical when you're exchanging information. Having Secure Exchange Solutions be a HITRUST certified solution is of critical importance to our organization because we're required to maintain HITRUST certification for all of our services. And so we're able to leverage SES's certification for ourselves for that service, so it's great.
Makes sense. QHINs are going to require it too. So tell us, how big was the project, to move all of your direct messaging to Secure Exchange Solutions, and what was the result? That seems like a big project. Did it go well? Tell us about that.
Yeah, the project went really smoothly, but it was a multifaceted project. I would say that there was 4 pieces that needed to be addressed. The first was moving all of the direct addresses that existed from one HISP to another, over 100 organizations with their own domains under our direct domain. That included delegated users, organizational addresses that are used as inboxes for alert notifications. And so moving all of that and making that transition seamless was really important. We also use single sign-on from our provider portal to make logins easier for our user community. So we had a technical implementation with Secure Exchange Solutions and our provider portal to work on that SSO. We had to reimagine our operational procedures in onboarding new customers. So there was a shift of our NOC resources no longer needing to be involved, but having our operations staff learn how to administer and how to work with SES's staff on onboarding new organizations. And then the other piece is that we also use our direct messaging as a way to ingest CCDs into our repository from EHRs or systems that aren't as interoperable. And so testing all of that functionality and building that to make sure that we were able to continue to get CCDs inbound was really important.
Yeah, interesting. So what do you say would be the impact of direct messaging on the organizations that are part of the Rochester RHIO, or are there some popular use cases that you're like, man, our members love this?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 main use cases for direct currently.
Okay.
One is that CCD exchange. So for example, we have public health department clinics that use EHRs that are able to push CCDs through direct messaging. And it's a bit more of a manual effort for the EHR, but it meets the minimum standard. As an HIE, we need to be able to get those CCDs, ingest them into our repository, and make them available to our community, and to also help the public health departments achieve their requirement of contributing data to the HIE. So we set them up with an inbox to send to. They connect that direct address to their EHR, and then the CCDs just get picked up from that inbox and put right into our repository. So it makes that manual process an automatic process, and it makes it a continuous flow of data. So that's a really important use case that's really behind the scenes, showing how direct messaging still has utility in being a transport mechanism for information. The other common use case is alerting. And so community-based organizations, care management organizations, those that aren't traditionally using healthcare EHRs, but have a need to understand where their patients are so that they can make sure that patients continue care, that they don't fall through the cracks. And so delivering alerts into direct inboxes is a large part of our business, and we deliver over 500,000 alert notifications annually.
Wow.
And some of that is delivered right into EHRs, but a lot of that goes to organizations, addressing human service needs through their direct inboxes.
Well, it's part of that health equity move that everyone's doing, and SDOH and those types of things. That it needs to go to someone other than people that have an EHR. So that makes sense.
And I think in health IT, there's a broad spectrum of technical capacity. As the health information exchange, it's really critical that you meet your participants wherever they are in their technology implementation, and direct through SES really helps us meet customers' needs in a unique way.
Yeah, that's great. How about on the provider-payer collaboration side of things? Are there any use cases you're doing or looking at doing?
Yeah, so we are we do some basic work with some of our payers, doing managing enrollment files, sending alerts for their members for care management programs and things like that. Currently, Rochester RHIO is going through the NCQA data aggregator validation program. And so after we receive that certification and have validated data streams that are certified, we plan to work with payers more in that space on supporting data quality.
Gotcha. At conferences talking about interoperability, we talk about standards and, and collaborations and partnerships, but at the end of the day, it's impacting patients. So are there any patient stories of how they've been impacted from the health information being shared properly? Sure.
So with direct messaging and our alerting, we've had a couple really powerful patient stories, especially for patients in behavioral health with behavioral health needs. And so we had one example of a patient who was on a weekend pass from, I think, a rehab setting in behavioral health, and their social worker received an alert through their direct messaging inbox that the patient was admitted to the hospital with flu symptoms.
Wow.
Right. And so the social worker contacted the hospital to find out what was going on and said, well, actually, this is a patient who's receiving substance abuse treatment. And they might be presenting as if they have flu symptoms, but this is actually a patient who's having an overdose and is in crisis and needs to come back into treatment. And so they could ensure that the patient received appropriate medical care for an overdose as opposed to the flu, and then ensure that that patient got back into treatment immediately.
Awesome.
And
great story.
Life-saving. And I think in behavioral health, we've seen a lot of examples of that sort of thing. We also receive incarceration notifications that we turn into alerts sent through direct. And so care managers, if their client goes missing, before they wouldn't know what happened to their client, but now they know that this is someone who's incarcerated, and so we can intervene there and make sure that person has the right transition, back to the community after incarceration.
Yeah, provides a nice continuity. It also doesn't waste resources as they're chasing them down, and of course
that's
they can't respond.
exactly it. And I think for a lot of care managers, knowing where their patient is really tricky, and so making sure that they can put the resources where they need to be, whether it's making sure that the home care provider knows that their patient is in the hospital and no longer at home, or that your client has been incarcerated, or that your patient who is having an overdose is in the emergency room, and then getting the follow-up care more quickly. That's what alert notifications are all about, and direct messaging helps us make sure that we can deliver those to all of the constituents, all of our stakeholders.
Yeah, powerful examples, thanks. Yeah. So, when I look at everything that HIEs, RHIOs can do, it seems like the work's never done. There's always more that can be done, especially analytics, right? And quality, that feels like it will never be done. So what's next on your roadmap?
So I think we are seeing the next year as an opportunity for big innovation. There's some interesting use cases in our community looking at closed loop referrals and thinking about what does that workflow look like? Gotcha. Where can the health information exchange help close the gaps in systems? Not every system has the capacity to do closed loop referrals, so we're looking at figuring out what that workflow looks like between a hospital with an EHR and a community-based organization using a different kind of system, and how can the health information exchange help power those transactions. I think also looking at our data quality, more data on social determinants of health, cleaner data on race and ethnicity, and looking at smart on fire applications, things like that are where we're focusing in the future.
Awesome. Well, Sara, thanks so much for taking time to share your insights and perspectives on this. I really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for watching. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting application. Thanks, Sara.
Thank you so much, John.